Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Raleigh Board of Selectmen meeting for December 23rd, 2013. Remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, audio and video, and call the meeting to order. And the first thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And with that, Joe Perry, will you lead us?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Joe. And next, Chairman's comments, and I have a few. And just bear with me for a second, you'll know where I'm going with this. On December 16th, on the 16th of December 1944, the Germans conducted their last great offensive in the West. The battle lasted until the 25th of January 1945. It involved 610,000 American troops. 89,000 were casualties, of which 19,000 were killed in action. Another 23,000 were captured or missing. The German attacks along an 80-mile front with the objective of seizing Brussels and Antwerp and splitting the American-British forces and forcing a truce. When we hear about the Battle of the Bulge, most of us think about Malmedy Massacre, or the St. Vith Battle, or the bridges over the Meuse, or the Siege of Bastogne. Because Bob Murray, in a suggestion of placing this year's wreath across America on the grave of Corporal Roy Marr, I did some reading and tried to find out what happened to Roy on Christmas Eve, 1944. Roy was assigned to the 3rd Armored Division, nicknamed the Spearhead. He was part of Combat Command B, 83rd Armored Reconnaissance. The 83rd, along with the 33rd Armored Regiment, under the call sign Osgood. But they were about to be remembered as Hogan's 400, and went on to earn the nickname Men of War. Several days after the start of the Battle of the Ardennes, as the Europeans call it, the 3rd Armored Division, commanded by General Rose, took a position on a line of defense from Houghton to Manhay in Belgium. Its mission was to stop the advance of the German troops and to carry out reconnaissance operations. On the 21st of December, one of these reconnaissance forays, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Sam Hogan, a Texan, and was heading for La Roche in Belgium when it ran into the vanguard of the 116th Panzer Division. Colonel Hogan's unit withdrew towards Marcourt and then to Marcoret, where he found himself surrounded by Germans. Hogan's vehicles were practically out of fuel. The order to break out could not be executed. The Americans' attempts to disengage and to recover parachute supplies failed. The German patrol went to Marcoret and requested the surrender of Task Force Hogan. Lieutenant Hogan said softly, "If you want this town, come right in and take it." Instead, the Germans surrounded the town, laid siege, not wanting to engage a well-dug-in, and I might say feisty Americans. On Christmas Eve, elements of the Recon Battalion were sent out to find a way back through the lines. It was during this action, I believe, that Roy Marr was killed in action. I could not find anything else in the official history of the 83rd suggesting that were engaged that day on the 24th. He was probably hastily buried and forgotten until grave registration found his body in September 1944, and he was declared dead. Again, this is conjecture on my part, but after reading the history and hearing many stories from veterans, this is what I believe happened. On Christmas night, General Rose ordered Lieutenant Colonel Hogan to destroy his vehicles, to cross the German lines and rejoin the American positions. After in a 14-hour march at night, in groups of 20, 400 survivors reached the sentry post of the 84th Division at Soy in Belgium. They were quickly re-equipped, and on the 3rd of January 1945, took part in the counteroffensive. The reason I started this search was because while visiting the American Cemetery at Omaha Beach back in 2007, I stood at another American's grave, the Medal of Honor recipient, Lieutenant Jimmy Monteith. And after standing there, and then standing out here at Roy Marr's grave, well, I didn't want Roy to be forgotten either. I believe 69 years ago tomorrow, Corporal Roy Marr was part of an effort to find a way of Montclair and back to the American lines. In doing so, he made the ultimate sacrifice on Christmas Eve, 1944. Let's not forget Roy, this man from our town of Raleigh. I plan to inquire more about Corporal Marr, and I visited Terry Hart today over the Veterans Services over in Ipswich, and I gave some information to his secretary, and we'll do some more investigation and find out what happened to Roy. And Bob, I thank you again for suggesting that we place the wreath on Roy's grave. And from that, this battle was huge. This was the largest battle that the United States took part in World War II. And a hometown boy was part of it.
Yes, and I feel very strongly we need to honor those people.
Yes.
I really do.
So this Christmas, let's remember Roy.
Exactly. And thank you, Bob, for doing that
Well
research.
said.
As I was in the cemetery the other day, I bumped into Jack, and Jack, you remember the Mars from up on Main Street?
Central Street.
Central Street?
There
Central
was a
Street?
pond named Mars
Mars
Pond.
Pond right there.
We skated right
Little
where
tree nursery.
Karam is now.
Mm-hmm.
That pond is,
Jeff
the old
Clark
name.
lives in the house, lives in
Yep.
our house.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they get some ties in Florida, Bob.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a brother? I saw something on one of the death certificates. I saw a brother's name. There was a lot of stuff on Ancestry.com that I found. So, anyways,
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Okay. From 7:05 to 7:15, which is a little bit 7:08 right now, a citizen query. Anybody have any questions in the audience tonight for us? Again, remind you that we're being recorded, audio and visual. We have appointment tonight. We were supposed to have Karen Summit to come in, discuss, but she postponed her appointment. We have a 7:30 appointment with Jack Gunstrom, and at 7:15 we're going to go into a recess to executive session, and then we will come back and discuss litigation. So, until then, let's go and start conducting some business. Go into general business. Class 2 license, dealer's license renewals. Okay, the following owner has submitted a Class 2 dealer's license renewals for the calendar year 2014. The application is complete. Taxes, light, and water bills are paid. This is Philip Mumley, Auto Pro Collision Center LLC, 266 Haverhill Street. The application. Should we take this separate here? Okay.
There's three,
There's 3 here?
there are 3 separate actions before the board on this.
Okay, let's the first one, Philip Mumley.
I'll give you a motion to.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Application for Lockhart's at 43 Central Street has been received, but there's $1,466.07 is owed in taxes. $85 is owed approximately to the water department. So, letter sent Mr. Lockhart on December 19th. What do you wish to do? You want to?
Well, I think we
Conditional
approved it. Actually, we were going to hold it until he paid his.
Okay. Did we vote on this last week? I can't remember.
The board
We put a hold on it.
Put a
It's
hold
not
on
a-
it.
Put a hold on it
has
until.
taken the action, so we're just
So he still
updating.
owes? I would just,
Well, until it's.
I was
Well, I
gonna
was going to ask a question. If he doesn't come forward before December 31st, does he have to reapply for his license?
Yes, because it expires.
It expires 3 years.
He won't be able, if he has dealer plates, he can't go to the auto auction. You need the dealer license to go to the auctions.
Right.
So we need to notify the registry of motor vehicles.
So would it be possible for us to approve it tonight, because we won't be meeting again until after January 1st?
it's up to the board, if
Well,
they,
I'm just asking the question at this point.
well, in the past, I think in some years, the selectmen have it conditionally approved, with the license is held. But it does, if it
If
expires,
it expires, it's all done.
you would have to condition that, put conditions in your motion.
Exactly, and I would like to make that suggestion, that we conditionally approve the license pending the outstanding balances that he owes. And if it expires on the 31st, then he's all done as far as that particular license goes. You'll have to start over again.
Looks like, Bob, you want to make that?
I'll second that.
You made the motion, Bob. I have a second from Joe. On the conditions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
That way, I think, Mr. Chairman, if he comes forward, he'll be able to continue his business.
Yeah,
Sure.
That way he's covered.
Before the 31st.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
Right.
intent is not to put him out of business.
No,
Right.
no,
No.
absolutely not. And hopefully we can help him by,
Sure.
Yeah.
when he gets the funding to us.
okay, Bill Cuddy of Hamilton Enterprises has requested that the name on his license be changed. To whom it may concern, I, Bill Cuddy, Hamilton Enterprises Used Car LLC, would like to change my used car license. So instead of reading Bill Cuddy, DBA Hamilton Enterprises Used Car LLC, I just make it Hamilton Enterprises Used Cars LLC. The reason for the change is it is hindering with getting financing from the, with DBA and LLC together. Okay, thank you, Bill Cuddy.
I'll give you the motion.
Have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
So we'll change it.
So
Change
we'll,
that.
we'll have a new license ready, on Thursday.
Okay.
Amy and I will be here on Thursday, and, we'll try to get the majority of the board to sign it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay,
Yep. Merry Christmas.
very Christmas. Okay, quickly move on to general business number 2. Class 3 dealer's license renewal. The following owner has submitted Class 3 dealer's license renewal for calendar 2014. The application is complete. Taxes, light, and water bills are paid. Raleigh Auto Parts, Mike Bontus, 164 Boxwood Road, Raleigh, Mass. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I think we can squeeze one more in. Okay. General business number 3, auto auction permit renewal. The following owner has submitted auto auction permit renewal for calendar year 2014. The application is complete. Taxes, light, and water bills are paid. Raleigh Auto Parts, Mike Pontus, 164 Boxford Road.
I'll make that motion.
I have a
Second.
motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, those 3 complete. Now let me find my motion. Call for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to litigation, because an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town, and to return to open session.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor with a roll call vote?
Jack Cook. Aye, Joe Perry.
I, Robert Snow.
Hi, Robert, Mary.
Hi, Dave Peterson.
Again, we will go into executive session. We will return to open session. So with that, could we Jack's here. Good evening again. We're back from executive session at 7:15. And just to make note, citizen query ended at 7:15. So, we have an appointment at 7:30 with Shellfish Commissioner Jack Gunstrom to discuss the green crab issues. And with that, we're going to move on to general business number 4. Number 4 is stable license renewals. The following owner has submitted a stable license renewal for calendar year 2014. Rachel Murin of Kittery Crossing Farm LLC, 59 Kittery Avenue. Taxes, light and water bills are paid. We have not received the paperwork to renew the following. Okay, that will be, we'll take that up as a second. But anyways, for
I'll give you a motion on
Rachel Murin,
Rachel Mayor.
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We have not received the paperwork to renew the following, so the stable license will expire on December 31st, 2013. Animal Risk Inspector Reed Wilson hand-deliver the application forms, and then on December 19th, 2013, as follow-up, sent a letter to them on November 7th, and that is for the last one, correct?
Yes.
Pam I'm sorry, how do you pronounce the last name? I'll kill this name.
Latalipi.
Latalipi. Okay, Nature Spirit Farm, and that's 66 Cross Street. So, moving on to flea market permit renewals. The following owners have submitted flea market license renewals for calendar year 2014. Applications are complete. Taxes, light and water bills are paid. Lost Treasures, 29 to 31 Main Street. Diane Hopkinson.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a
Second.
second? I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to general business number 6. New stable license applications. The following owner has submitted an application for a new stable license for calendar year 2014. $30.01 owed in taxes, $95.73 water bill owed. Does the board wish to conditionally approve this license? This is for Dennis Pellichiri at 179 Boxford Road. Again, there's $30 owed on
I'll
in
give you a
taxes.
motion to
Conditionally approve it.
Second.
I have a motion to conditionally approve it. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have not received application for new licenses from the following, who house 4 or more horses as of November 2013. Animal Inspector Reed Wilson has hand-delivered the application forms to them on December 19th, 2013, as follow-up to the letter sent to them on November 7th, 2013. Joshua Noble, 424 Main Street, and Richard Bertelson, 100 Weathersfield Street. Okay, old business. Signed deed accepting donation of 710 Haverhill Street. Okay, the deed is ready for the selectmen to sign for the donation of 710 Haverhill Street from John and Paula Breen to the care and custody of the Conservation Commission. The Board of Selectmen need to vote to sign an approval acceptance of the land. The selectman's signature requires a notary, and Sean McFadden is here. And with that, I have a motion from the
I'll
board.
make a motion, we accept that deed, accepting the donation of 710 Haver Street.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all of us have to sign. I think we have several places to sign here. Or just one? Just the one? Okay. Here we go. Joe. Just have to wait for the seal of the notary.
I think it's all set now.
You're
Is it all set? Okay. Okay, moving on to old business, signed Mass Fisheries and Wildlife document for sale of salt marsh land. The option to purchase is not ready for the selectmen to sign. There are several changes that the town attorney is requiring to be made before the selectmen can sign. This will go on the January 6th meeting agenda. Okay. Okay, new business. Do we have enough time to go through this?
Maybe we could jump to the new business. Meetings- Don't want to jump to the meeting schedule?
Yeah, go to the new schedule. Okay, I'll do this. We have 2 minutes to do that, and we'll come back to
Thanks,
this
Sean.
one. We're gonna jump ahead to, thank you very much, Sean. Okay. Thank you. Okay. We have 1 minute here. Set the meeting schedule for January, February, and March. There are, these are the proposed meeting dates: January the 6th, 2014, January 13th, January 27th, February 3rd, February 10th, February 24th, March 3rd, March 10th, March 17th, March 24th, and March 31st. How's that sound to the board?
Sounds good.
I'm good?
It's every Monday except a holiday week.
Except the holiday and,
A Monday holiday, and there's
Okay.
two Monday holidays, one in January and one in February, but March, you don't have that
March,
much.
they make us go
Oh,
5.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, but probably does it fall on a Monday?
Yeah.
It does. You can
The
declare it
17th,
a holiday.
Shall we wear green ties that day? Buy
I'm
yourself
being
a green tie,
facetious.
Bob.
well, I think I have one.
Have you? Okay. I know I got one.
Larry, remind me not to wear the gold one, okay?
So noted.
So noted. Thanks, Larry. All right. Okay, it is 7:30, and with that, Jack Dumpster, we have a seat for you right down front here.
Good.
Even his
I have
folder
a
is
piece of
green.
paper for you. I would have brought it up earlier, however, I just finished it this afternoon, so I couldn't.
And again, I remind everybody, this is 7:30 appointment with Shellfish Commissioner Jack Gunstrom, and Jack is going to discuss the green crab issues. And this is kind of important to the aquaculture. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to
Okay,
you.
this is a report from the Green Crab Summit that was held in University of Maine at Orono on December 16th. And it was important enough, so I thought it should definitely be attended, and it turned out is extremely important. The first speaker was Dr. Brian Beal, who is also a professor there. And he and I have been working together for years on different projects and whatnot. However, this is the big one. Some of the bays up in Maine that have been the biggest producers of clams, no clams in them, none, zero.
Really?
Now the clammers in Maine, New Hampshire, primarily Massachusetts, worked its way north, been fighting green crabs for years. But now it's become a environmental issue. And this is where I think more might get into it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing he and I have worked with traps, we've been working with traps and nets down here for years. He came up and just said that traps do not work, you cannot trap on nothing to make it work, and nets do work, and that's what we've been doing here for years, but small beds at a time. It's not a thing that you can go sky high with, you know. In Nova Scotia, Chris McCarthy from Nova Scotia, all of the eelgrass beds have disappeared up there. And ours disappeared about 20 years ago. So this is when we first got the green crab. They have received the marsh grass on the edge of the estuaries is wiped back about 30 yards. And of course what happens is then it starts eroding. So you got a whole different estuary up there now. he said that there's a couple of uses for them, the lobster baits. And what they did up there, they developed a new trap they call the Terminator, which catches about 3 times what our traps catch. And they spent 1 whole year, and they figure they reduced the population by 30%.
Oh.
That's fine. However, by the next spring, back just as many as there was the year before. So trapping is something that may be fun. It may look good on paper, but it doesn't get rid of the green crabs. April Blakesley from Long Island reported that this is absolutely a new breed of greenies. It's the greenie that we've had and the greenie that's been up north, and now they're intimating around Bay of Fundy, and it's moving south all the time. And they are ferocious, absolutely ferocious. They eat anything. They get into lobster pats. They eat the bait. A lobster will not go in a trap if there's a live green crab in it. However, you can smush them, and they'll be in to get the dead green crab. They will not cohabitate with a live green crab because they're so ferocious.
They'll eat the lobster?
Chew them up, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like break off a leg and then, you know.
And I take it, Jack, that the
Yep.
green crabs don't taste good
Yep, yep.
on top of it.
And they're spreading this way down from the Bay of Fundy, and the new breed can sustain colder water, which this is why they never get up into Maine when we were doing it 15 and 20 years ago, because the water was that much colder. But now the new breed can sustain a colder temperature. Cole Cowart from the Maine Department of Marine Resources, she conducted a 1-day study for the whole coast of Maine, and it was all volunteer, and she had people from all the way up to all the way down put in a trap for a certain number of hours. She didn't specify the type of trap, she didn't specify the type of bait, just to see if they were there. Every place there was green crabs, all the way from southern Maine to northern Maine. Abden Simmons, who was a digger up there, simply said, "You better start controlling these crabs, or there'll be no more clams." And that was the end of his speech. Short and sweet,
Okay.
to the point. The big one is coming. The big one is yet to come.
Okay.
Hello? If I can get out. Okay, Bailey Bowden. Penobscot Bay had a moon snail problem. They're a big white, and what they do, they drill a hole right in the clam's shoulder, so the clam's shell opens up, and then they devour the whole clam. The flats were covered with shells with these little holes in the shoulder. Guess what? The green crabs came in, killed off all of the moon snails. Now these things,
Wow.
they're about as big as your fist, and they have a flapper valve in the bottom where the green crab could get in and pull the moon snail out. Kill every moon snail.
How big
in
are
the
these
bay.
crabs, Jack, these green crabs?
A big one is about 3 to 3.5 inches, but even the little teeny ones are ferocious, and there's millions of the little teeny ones. They almost look like a big spider. The ones we trapped here, my son and I had a project on trapping about 04, I guess it was, 9 years ago. And most of the ones we trapped were males that were 3 to 4 inches. The females are very shy about coming to places where there might be human activity, that type of thing. They are mostly big, and the last trapping we did, in the wintertime, the little ones go into the sod banks, and the big ones go out into the channel. The last trapping we did was out in Plum Island Sound, and we filled a trap right solid full of 3 to 4 inch green crabs.
Where do they propagate, or where do the babies? Do they come on shore, or how do they?
Well, this is the other thing I'm going to tell you about. They go into hovels underneath the marsh banks. They dig out a hole in there and make a hut in there. And they keep digging, and finally the whole bank collapses. And this is where the environmentalists are coming in, because it's definitely changing the course of the creeks and rivers and everything. It just topples the outer bank. You've seen it down there, Jack. When the green crabs ran out of food, they started eating the moon snails. The moon snails disappeared, but too late. The clams are all gone. The mussels are gone. We lost our mussel bed about 5 years ago, wondering why. The green crabs finally got into the mussels and ate up all the mussel bed. There's hardly a mussel left down there. The mussel bed are just shells now. The green crabs are now eating the bait and the lobster pots, horseshoe crab eggs, which now, we used to kill horseshoe crabs, but now they're a protected species because they use them for serum, to test serum whether it's pure or not.
And now they're eating them?
They're eating the lobster's egg, which is just as bad, if not worse, than eating horseshoe crab eggs,
Yeah.
which they keep under their tail, and somehow they get up underneath their tail to eat because horseshoe crabs are real slow, so they can get up underneath them and eat the eggs off their tail. They eat the bait out of the lobster traps. The main lobsters have to keep moving the traps further and further out, but they can't get ahead of them. They eat lobster eggs. They eat marsh grass. This is the big thing. 30 feet back on the banks. They've just wiped it so it's just a flat mud bank now, up 10 feet above the water. And anything else that has protein in it. Dan Belknap of University of Maine said they're devastating the low marshes in Maine. They're clear-cutting the marsh near the edges. They're burning the mud banks and causing erosion. And he suggested a study up there to determine the erosion rate, which I don't think is going to help much, but it might get somebody to make a move. Dr. Hilary Nicholas, due to green crabs, all eelgrass was gone in McCoyet Bay. Eelgrass transplants have not been successful because there's no way they could protect it from the green crabs. So as soon as they get some planted, they're going to need it right up again. Many studies have been conducted to find a commercial use for it. They feel probably the only way you can get rid of them is get the commercial people to make money on it. Get down and fish them constantly. But so far, and they've gone through all kinds of monkey motions to find a way. They've made up this pate of beautiful protein. And then they hired this chef to come in to find ways to cook it so it would be palatable. And he couldn't really find a way to make anybody say, boy, that's good. People say, yeah, I can eat that. But nobody would say, yeah, that's good. However, with that protein, there's probably places in the world. That comes to the last point. The only hope to reduce this is Chad Coffin from Maine Clamor Association. The only way to reduce the green crab population is to find a commercial market for them. At this time, Spain is the largest user of green crabs. They collect the green crabs in a controlled pool and change the temperature of the water and heavily feed them until they shed. They shed their shells as they grow 4 times a year. Then they collect them when they shed. They have 11 days to collect them and get rid of them. And in Spain, and I think they would most any place else in the world, eat them whole as soft shell crabs. They fry them, they do all sorts of things, they'll eat the whole thing whole. But only up to 3 inches or something like that. Less than that, I think. 2.5 inches. 30 millimeters there. But the bad news is it's only worth about 30 cents a pound. So the other thing I must have skipped over here, I think it was early in somebody, it might have been Brian Beal, who I pay a lot of attention to. Oh, here we go. Maine may be 2 years away from no soft shell crab production.
Wow.
Just 2 years.
Now, we have one dealer in Raleigh, for instance, who deals strictly in Maine clams. And that could put him right out of business.
Wow.
And Brian, I mean, he developed down east propagation up there. It's a big thing like Cat Cove here in Salem. It's commercial, and he's the guy that developed. He knows what he's talking about. And he said 2 years away, I believe him. So we got to think about that. I don't know what we can do, but I just want you guys to know that there is a problem coming this way. And when we find something we do, we're going to want to go at it pretty progressively. I don't think we can do it as a town project. I think it must be federal government, state, and it's unity of state and local. I think there'd be all 3 ways to do it.
I think you're right, Jack.
When they figure out what to do.
Have you talked? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'll get one.
No, go ahead. Have you talked to anybody in Ipswich about?
Oh yeah. Well, Scott, the shellfish warden over there, he's been writing this up for some time. They tried. See, this is the other thing. Clam diggers are tough people to work with. We tried this back in the 60s. We put out leases. Everybody had leases. Everybody worked the leases, did a good job on them. And all of a sudden, some flats opened up that had good clamming on them. So they all left their leases and went and dug in the open flats. Now you can say, okay, if you hold a lease, you can't dig on open flats. And they're going to say, fine, keep the lease. Then you don't get this production from the leases. So it's a tough situation. The same thing happened over there. They tried to pay a bunch of apparently diggers, I think, to go out and trap green crabs, which I know and knew then and told them then that it wouldn't do any good. The more you trap, the more they breed and the more you get. But they just gave it up. It just didn't work. They've done nothing at all except that one trial on trapping them. They can get a lot of green crabs, but not enough to make a difference.
Jack, what's on the leases? There's a number of, fellas in Raleigh got them.
How many?
Well, no, I mean, my point would be is they put nets.
All of them have got nets on them.
Does
yeah.
that protect the clams from
Oh,
the
absolutely.
predators getting underneath?
Absolutely. We can grow clams, there's no doubt about it.
With the
nets.
nets.
The thing we've learned recently, when we first started doing it, we could take all the nets off in the fall, the clams would be there the next spring, we could dig them all through the summer. Now the green crabs have found out how to burrow deeper, and you can't do that now. The only way you can do it, when a net gets ripe, 2-inch
Yeah.
clams, you've got to roll it back, dig it, put the net back over. Next day, roll back some more. You've got to leave the net over until the clams are all gone, or the green crabs get every one of them.
How about has there been, the green crabs, have they been into the areas where they've,
If you
Put
roll
the
the net
nets.
off, they're into them fast.
yeah.
Fast.
Okay.
Oh, unbelievable.
No kidding.
The one story I remember, this is when we were back experimenting, we had a net that had 1,500 clams per square foot under it. So we decided we should take those out, sort them out, put them someplace else. So my son and I were coming up river one night, the next day was going to do it. So we said, while we're here, let's take that net off. Tomorrow we're going to take them out. Went back down there the next day, wasn't a clam there.
No kidding.
It had 1,500 per square inch.
Yeah.
And this is a 35 by 8 foot wide net.
Wow.
So we knew then that once you took the nets off, the little ones were gone. So we found you could get them up to about 1.5 inches, and they would stay. But now you can't do that. Even at 2 inches, they're going to get them.
Because I remember way back when there was a gang of us down Mud Ditch and up in Floyd's. The green crabs, every one of us, when we were digging, we hit them.
Hit them, yeah.
And it wasn't that many then.
Yeah.
If you saw a dozen a whole tide, that was a lot.
Oh, that was, exactly.
Right back then,
Well, right now, if
late
you-
60s. And
Bag up
Yeah.
a bag of clams and set them on the flat, and you look over, 5 minutes later, the whole bag will be covered with green crab. They can't get in at them, but they know
they're
they
there.
want to,
yeah, that's something.
What can we do?
Right now, I don't know of a thing we can do, except I'm going to bring it. I got to meet with Bruce Tow. Oh, Debbie, about 2 weeks.
They're trying to set up a meeting for the middle of January.
Yeah, I'm going to mention it to him at that point. But I think the federal government and the state and the town. I don't think there's anything a town can do except what we're doing, and that's using nets. And now that we know we have to use them right through to digging them, we're just going to have to keep doing that.
What are the other towns doing? Essex, Newbury, Newburyport?
It's what? I'm sorry.
What is Essex, Newburyport doing? They doing anything?
Nothing whatsoever.
Is there any way to kind of coordinate with those people and get them into the same group and act
Well,
as
what
a-
are you going to do if you have the group? That's the problem.
Well, you might be able to put a little more pressure.
This group right here was probably the best group you could ever in the world get together. There was about 15 speakers, and all of these people that were there were had a whole doctorate. There was Division of Marine Fisheries, everything else, a whole group of them here. And I don't think you could ever get together a better group to study something like this than this group right here.
That was down in Maine, Jack.
Down in
right?
Maine.
When they,
The one thing
yeah.
we got though is the contact information. So if we want to know something, we can contact the specific person who presented that particular issue.
Yeah.
But right now,
What are they planning to do, Jack? I mean, to me, reading what you brought in, they're pretty, from Machias, that whole area, down in Waldoboro.
Yep.
Like you said, within a year or two, the
2
clams
years,
are gonna
2
be,
years.
and it's a
possibly,
big
there'll be
area.
no
You
clams
got,
left. So if they can't protect what they've got for 2 years, there's not much they can do.
Mr. Chairman, has the Division of Marine Fisheries in Massachusetts done anything? I mean, are
Well,
they in
they don't know what to do.
studying
I have to
this or
present this
notifying
to,
local shellfish boards?
no, they don't know what to do. I have to present this to Mike Hickey, who's the head of the Division of Marine Fisheries, and Jeff Kennedy, who's the head of the depuration plant, within 2 weeks. To just see where we might go from here, but I have no idea.
Is
where.
Congressman Tierney aware of this?
It's what?
Congressman Tierney?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So there's no Massachusetts studies, and, there's no funding for studies
No.
on the ecology
No,
of
not-
this
not to my
species,
knowledge.
and is it's obviously an invasive species, and
It is an
you know,
invasive species, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It came from Europe. Now, there's another one called Rocky that doesn't bother us, that comes from Japan. But they hop over the muddy areas and just go from rocky area to rocky area. But
Is
it's the
there
same
anything
crab.
that's a predator against the green crab?
Is there anyone? I'm sorry.
Any predators against?
None, because they're an invasive species. Well, we asked one girl who was studying it in France, and she said there is something there that how I go for it? Well, so that the male green crabs cannot breed. And she wanted to know if we wanted to import it, and everybody said no.
Yeah, then they add to the problem.
Well, no,
Yeah,
that's
no,
not-
that's-
that's-
That's a control. Yeah, we asked her what do they use for control in France and England, and that's what she said. No, don't bring that over here. We're bad enough now.
Yeah.
But the only studies we've had, the biggest one I know is the one that my son and I had with Cat Cove in 2004. But there's been no studies except that I know of.
What can this board do, Jack?
All I'm doing right now is just advising you what we may be looking for. And when we get to a point where we know, I don't want to do anything that's not going to help.
Mhm.
But when we find something that we think is going to help, we're going to be looking for support on it. That's
Okay.
about all we can say. Because it's very, very critical.
This is serious.
Very.
I mean,
Yeah, shellfishing, I mean,
Yeah.
New England is big.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
You know,
Maine
yeah.
itself? Millions of barrels. Even now, still millions of barrels are coming out.
Yeah.
And they say
Oh,
in
yeah.
2 years there'll probably be none.
Imagine what that's gonna do for the tourists down there.
Unbelievable.
You know,
Yeah.
Booth Bay, Bar
Yeah.
Harbor,
Yeah.
and the clams they
Yeah.
sell, the clam bakes and
Yeah.
stuff down
when did
there.
this all start again, Jack?
The first green crab, it's all in here. They first detected about 1920, earlier than that, nearly around 1900.
Really?
It came in on the ballast in the bottoms of ships.
Oh, okay.
They would come over from England empty or other places. This basically came from the England area. And they'd have these rocks, and they would get over here and they'd throw them out so they could take a load of something else back. And they feel it came in with the ballast in these ships.
Gee, I wonder what caused them to proliferate the way they
Well,
have.
it's just a matter of time.
Matter
They
of
just got
time,
wor-
it just-
Yeah, we've known they've been here since probably, I tried netting them in 1960s. I was commissioner in 1960s, and I tried using net. The funny part of it is I used almost the same nets as we use them now. And I'd put a net down, I'd get on and say, oh yeah, it's covered with clam. So I'd roll it over a flip to get another section, go back the next week, and they'd be all gone.
Gone.
Where did they go, you know? Well, the green crab, we eating them as fast as I was
Wow.
catching them and growing them, you know?
You go
So
through
that's
the-
in the 60s.
If you go through the flats barefooted, are they going to attack your feet? I mean, it sounds
Well, I'm
like
telling
this-
you, stand
sounds
still
like they're
long
ready to-
enough,
anything
you're after
that-
your
anything that's
toes.
got protein, they're going to be after it, right?
Yeah, 'cause when we used to fish them, we'd wear, heavy
Yeah.
rubber gloves, and they'd be all over our gloves. Only
Really?
taking all the traps and putting them in the bucket, they'd hang on here and there. Yeah, they bite hard too.
Well, we gotta
Well,
find
ferocious.
something that likes to eat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's if we can find something that would let the clam diggers and others go and fish them for money,
Right.
then that would be the way to do it. Well, we can fish out cod, we can fish out haddock, we can fish out anything. We should be able to fish out green crabs, right?
That's the last thing we're probably gonna get
Yeah.
fished out though, Jack.
Yeah.
Basically, they're in the channels too, aren't they? I mean,
Well,
low
they-
water,
They
would
do
be-
go out into deeper water, but they like it up around the marshes where the clams are. They'll eat anything, marsh grass, cockles, you name it. You put it down there and they're going to eat it. But in the wintertime, like I say, the little ones go into the marsh, into the little caves, and the big ones go out into the deep water.
Maybe there might be something too, Jack, down the road, like lobstermen. They'd come up with something that they really like and bait up the creeks with pots.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
could be another
Yeah,
thing that you
yeah,
could really
yeah.
do a job on them. Because a pot would
Yeah,
hold,
yeah.
what, hundreds
Oh, yeah,
of them.
yeah.
And they couldn't
We
get
were
out
getting-
something small mess.
We were making up
They get-
small pots that were probably 3 feet long, 2 feet wide, built on an angle. We had 3 soda bottles in the top, and they get down through the soda bottles, and they couldn't get back up
Back
through the
out.
soda bottles.
Yeah.
But this one that they use, they call the Terminator. It's about 6 feet long and about 3 feet wide, and it has a slot across the entire top. And they showed films of these crabs going up over the side and down to them as fast as they could run. However, now they've found out you should pull them in about 20 minutes because they'll fill up in 20 minutes. If you leave them set all day, you've lost crabs. You know,
Really?
it's weird.
Wow.
Well,
Well, they had john boats. You know what a john boat is, Bob. They had john boats, and they would go out and fill the john boat in one setting of traps.
it's too bad that they don't taste good.
It's coming. I don't know. We know we're not going to lose our clams forever. The thing that concerns me is if you lose enough clams. Well, luckily, Cat Cove can spawn us clams as fast as we can buy them. They get them for sale down there. Little small clams that we can set and get started again. But years ago, if you lost all your clams, you didn't get clams back.
Well, look at Barron, Nelson Island.
Yep. Yep.
Nothing. The
Yep,
only thing
exactly.
you
Yep.
come in good was razors.
Yep. Yep.
Now the razor clam.
Well,
They don't
the
seem to
razor
bother them.
clams too, by the way.
Yeah,
That's something they
I didn't
hadn't
think they
Love
would get
razor
down that
clams.
far.
Green crabs love razor clams.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised, Jack, they go down deep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
down
I
there.
am too. Yeah.
And
Is
if
there
they-
any clam that they don't like?
Not that we know of, because they've eaten all the mussels. Not, they never ate razor. See, razor clams are very fast.
Yeah.
They'll even come up and stick out of the mud, but if you stand 10 feet away, they'll
Boom, they'll
get
break
out of the
down
mud.
any-
But I think these
The
green
summer they're
crabs were
down
good
3
enough to
feet.
sneak up on them when they were up and grab a hold of them. You know?
Oh, wow.
This sounds like when we were kids, they had the movie Them with the spiders and the ants and stuff taking over the world. It sounds like these green crabs are going
crabs.
to take over and eat
Yeah.
all of us.
Yep, they
Oh,
are.
gosh.
They really are. You know, as things will get set up here, there was probably 200 of us in the audience. Everybody go, oh, you know, I mean, it just broke our hearts, the stuff they were saying, because we never had any idea that it was this bad.
Must have been a fascinating seminar, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Jack, if we can do anything,
Well,
if
you
anything
just be
changes,
advised.
Yeah,
please
keep
come
us-
in
keep
and.
us informed
and
anyway,
keep-
Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you want a letter from us or anything like that, or
Mm-hmm.
we can back you up.
So right now, be advised, and if we come up with something, or the state comes up with something, or the federal
Okay.
government, or a combination thereof, we'll certainly be
You
talking.
know, if you need us to send a letter to the congressman,
Yep.
state senator, state rep, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they'll come up with something.
Yeah, well, there's so many people up there that had a lot more horsepower than I got. I'm sure that they're trying to. I'm just keeping an eye on the thing, you know.
Well, it sounds like Maine has all the biggest, heaviest hitters work on it. If they ever come up with a solution,
They do,
I
yeah.
kind of think.
University of Maine is devoting a lot of
Yeah.
time, money, and energy to this.
Let's hope they come up with something.
Yeah, because that's going to a lot of people in Maine survive on their living,
Gotta
Yeah.
believe
as
it.
well as us up here.
Yeah.
You realize that a
You know?
soft shell clam has a ×7 multiplier. If the clam digger digs $200 worth of clams today,
Right.
it's $1,400 that comes into the area. By the time, because everything stays local, you know, you don't ship into Kansas, and
Right.
so it has a ×7 multiplier
Oh.
in the economy locally.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at Gloucester. The fishing industry has been devastated.
Yeah,
Now what?
yeah,
I mean, a lot of those guys have gone to lobstering and gone into
Exactly.
clamming and everything else, and now this.
yeah, yeah. And of course, it's affecting the lobster, which is their biggest thing down there. And they like the lobster thing because it's classical, you know. They don't care too much for the clams, but they love the lobster. So. Okay, gentlemen.
All right, Jack,
Okay,
thank you
just
for
be
coming in
advised.
tonight.
Yeah.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Jack.
Merry Christmas and happy, great New Year. That's the
Yeah,
main
you
thing.
too,
Yep.
Jack. Take care.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Great
Christmas,
New Year,
Jack.
guys. Yep. Thank you, guys.
Wow. It's not a good story to hear. is it?
No, it was
No.
a well
Wow.
presented case
Yes.
going on, you know.
Yeah, it does look like they
Scary.
got the best people in the world working on it. And they
Yeah.
come up with a solution.
They got some heavy hitters there anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to, or back, I should say, new business number 1. Review proposed changes to Triton Regional School Agreement. Selectman Perry has submitted the following proposed changes to the Triton Agreement for the Selectmen to review. He will discuss the reasons why these changes are proposed. So with that, Joe, I'm turn it over
I
to
only
you.
have a couple of hours to,
Go right ahead.
on Wednesday, December 11th, I went to the school committee meeting. And part of the meeting was a report from the finance subcommittee of the school committee. And these are proposed changes to the regional agreement. These are proposed by the finance subcommittee. The full committee of the school committee has not acted upon these changes, but these are proposals. Among the proposals, I'd just like to point out a few things. One of the things that the chairwoman of the committee wanted to get approved was on the second page, Section D, approval of budget by member towns. Approval by member towns of the budget is governed by Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 16B, as it exists or hereafter be amended. At any town meeting that considers a municipal budget that includes an appropriation for the provision of educational service by the school committee, a designated member of the school committee or the superintendent of schools or his or her designee shall have the opportunity to present an executive summary of the proposed budget. This is a change in that we vote at the beginning of our town meeting that we will allow the superintendent of schools or his designee to respond to questions from the residents if they have any questions about the school committee budget. But this change, Robin feels that they ought to be able to make a presentation at town meeting at all times on the budget.
Yeah, I think we generally give them, they have the opportunity, but generally because the budget has already been recommended by the selectmen and the
Yeah, but I think the
school and the finance committee, that it really hasn't been an issue.
It hasn't been an issue, so
Not in a
that.
long time,
Right,
anyway.
the difference is that they're saying shall have the opportunity.
Right,
But, so all they gotta do is stand up and, we give them the opportunity
We allow
to
them
speak.
to come into the meeting and sit over on the side,
right.
but the town meeting has to approve them sitting
Right.
there.
That just to come up.
So
Yeah.
there is an approval process. If they decided not to approve it, then they wouldn't have the opportunity to speak.
Right.
Oh, but I mean, if the school committee wants to, they could just, the superintendent, the way we currently run it, he can say, I'd like to talk to the meeting, and
Well,
we're
typically-
approving him to, if he doesn't.
We approve
if
him
he doesn't
to-
wish to speak, then that, he has the we give him the opportunity, he doesn't, it's up to him.
Yeah, we usually read that in the
Yeah.
beginning.
I
The
mean-
following people have permission to speak.
Following non-resident department
non-resident,
heads
yes.
and officials such as the superintendent of schools, as well as the legislative delegation, Senator Tar, Representative Hill. So it's in one motion that,
Right, but
and
it
our practice in
doesn't
Rowley.
necessarily mean we'll give them permission to do it, though. What
Right.
they're saying
It's a
here is
vote.
that they, right, but if they vote it down, then they do not have the opportunity, and they're saying they shall have the opportunity.
Right. They're looking for shall.
Well, I think we would have to reconcile that with the town meeting bylaw. There's
Yeah.
a section on there, I believe, that might
I mean, I
Well,
can-
maybe
I can
covers.
remember-
a school committee member would be able to stand up.
Exactly,
And give the summation, it doesn't necessarily have to be, in other words, I think maybe we should send, has this been adopted, Joe? at
This has not been
If this
adopted.
gets adopted, then we should notify the moderator that, she should probably give specifically asked the
Yeah, they have to change the
superintendent
wording from shall to.
if they wish to make a presentation on the school budget.
Well, my understanding is that these proposed changes will be voted on by the school committee. And if they adopt them, then they have to bring them to each of the 3-member towns for approval at town meeting.
Now, in the past, I was a member on 2 different occasions of, a committee to make recommendations on changes to the school
Regional agreement.
regional agreement. Now, I thought, and I don't have a copy here, but I thought that when we were making changes, or wanted to make changes to the agreement, that all three towns would have representatives be part of that discussion before it ever came before the town. So I'm just wondering if this sounds like a subcommittee within the school committee is making this recommendation, but I'm not sure. In other words, don't we have the opportunity as a board of selectmen as well as the other two towns to comment or have input on these recommended changes? I think the agreement requires that we have that. Now, I might be wrong, maybe they've changed it, but in other words, we're affected by this, so we ought to be able to have some input before it gets to us to vote it up or down.
I'll have to check on that. I
If
really
you
don't
would, that
know
would
the
be
answer
good.
to that.
Yeah, I think you need to check on the wording too, also, Joe.
Okay.
That shall,
I know that, well, when I've heard it discussed before, and then it was voted by the subcommittee and presented at the December 11th meeting of the school committee. That was what the chairperson of the subcommittee was looking for, that they shall have the opportunity.
Are these all changes, Joe, or are this just certain?
These are proposed changes.
These are all, in other words, every one of these is a change from what the current agreement says?
Correct.
Because I'd like to see what the current agreement
Yeah,
is.
and they have the tracking changes on that?
See what
I
the
didn't know
changes-
what exactly was being changed. I thought it was
Yeah.
the handwritten thing on the bottom there. So do they have the red line version? I mean, any change to any legal document, we
Yeah.
always have tracking
Because there's a
changes.
lot of changes here, in other words.
Yeah.
There are.
We
Yeah,
really
line
need
by line.
to spend some
And
time.
well, I'll get to other concerns, but I don't have anything that indicate, as far as I know that they are changes that they're proposing, I don't have any red line
Okay.
okay.
document.
Can you get that, Joe?
I'll see what,
And bring it back?
Right.
And then I think we need to come back and review this again.
I believe town meeting has to accept the changes.
Yeah,
do.
well, I have to see if it,
that
So we're
is,
gonna need a red line
Yeah.
copy.
we need to look
so-
at the town meeting bylaw. The town meeting bylaw, I believe, has a section, that's why we vote that motion, to have non-resident department heads and officials.
And I don't remember
It's for
my
the permission to speak.
going to town meeting that they ever refused to allow them to speak.
No.
Oh, no,
But-
in
No.
years
There
past,
is,
the
it is
sup-
conceivable that they might at some point.
Yeah, but this says a designated member of the school committee, so I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see that really being a problem. In other words, it
I
allows the
never knew it.
superintendent or the school committee person, or, so there's, and we can change the bylaw, but I think it's pretty clear that the school committee people are residents of Raleigh, the three of them, so they can obviously present
I
Yeah.
know,
changes or.
it was just my understanding that at town
Yeah.
meeting, that if a question arose, that where we made the motion at the beginning of the meeting, that they could address questions.
What-
But if there aren't any questions, if the finance committee has approved the budget from the Triton Regional District, and we have gone through the budget, usually there aren't any questions. of the
And it's
school
like we
budget.
did with the Girl Scout camp. We asked Brent to come up and make a presentation. He came
Right.
up and made a presentation. So
Exactly.
I don't think it's a, because we could always, I guess the town could have refused to let Brent talk too if they
Right.
really wanted. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just,
Right.
it's an open meeting. I don't think anybody's looking to stop people from talking.
That- When this was brought up, were there any other members, representatives from the other towns there?
Yes, all of the school
Did-
committee
did-
people were there.
Okay, did anybody make a comment about this?
No, this was just a proposal from the subcommittee.
From the
They
subcommittee?
weren't going to vote on it. They did not take this up and vote on the December 11th meeting.
Did they, anything else that they wanted to talk to the, the Board of Selectmen from the different towns about this?
No,
No.
not yet,
Okay,
not yet. I'd just like to go over a couple of other items.
okay.
One issue that has come up, they've scheduled district communications meetings, which I found very useful, and that Peter Sensulo and Karen Derhosel and I were always at the district communications meetings, and we found them very useful and provided a channel for communications between the towns and the school committee. The last two were scheduled for 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and wound up both meetings for October and November were canceled. And so now they are proposing a communications committee, section 14, if I still read my Roman numerals correctly, a committee comprised of one select person, one finance member
okay.
nominated by the Board of Selectmen, and that's handwritten in from each town. And the chairperson of the school committee and one school committee member from each town, and the superintendent shall be organized for the purpose of establishing a means for town district communications. And the meeting shall be convened on a minimum of a quarterly basis. So this is another change to the district communications
So, which
subcommittee.
was a monthly,
It was a monthly.
now they want to go quarterly.
Now they're talking about quarterly, and they want to set it up so that we've had no problems from Rowley, that we've always had, I've always been at the district meetings, as I just said, Peter and Karen were always there from the finance committee, and the other towns were always well represented. So I don't understand. I wish they were going back to the monthly meetings and not going to a quarterly. There are other sections that I would like to have somebody, I don't know whether we would make the recommendation tonight. Maybe the members of the Board of Selectmen would like to read it. The other apportionment and payment of costs incurred by the district, the classification of costs, capital costs, operating costs. And I think these are something that should be reviewed. Somebody with a legal background as to what changes they are proposing for these. But it was very detailed. Again, the school committee did not vote these changes. These were presented by the subcommittee, the finance subcommittee of the school committee.
You think it'd be a good idea for representatives of the school committee to come in?
I think so. I really do.
Okay. Why don't we ask representative of the school committee to come in? Okay.
Very good. I think that would be a good idea.
So, does the board agree?
No.
Okay. Yes, Larry?
Joe, on that district meeting schedule, I thought you said that the proposed change was to a minimum meeting quarterly.
Right.
Okay, so they're not proposing that it meets on a quarterly basis.
No, they're not.
They'll
A
say-
minimum of.
Yeah, even though they have monthly meetings right now, you know, if they've missed 2 months, then they have to meet on the third month. They just can't keep postponing or are canceling meetings. So-
Under this proposed change.
Right. So they're not necessarily.
But we're not
Going
operating
away.
under this proposed change yet.
But it sounds like they're not going away from the monthly meetings. Maybe you need that as a clarification that, you know, the meetings would remain monthly, but as a minimum, you know, you'd have one meeting every quarter.
When
We
did they,
can seek that clarification.
excuse me, when did they want to act on this? Did they give any time frame?
I did not see, I haven't seen the agenda for January yet, so I don't know whether that's on
Can we
the January meeting.
Mr. Chairman, can we send the school committee and/or the superintendent a letter asking them to clarify this and not put it on a timetable so that we can have adequate time?
Yes.
Because we're gonna need time to look this over before these changes are gonna have to go in, if they're looking at doing them for the Springtown
By
meeting.
the Springtown meeting,
There's some
right?
major changes here.
Yes.
I noticed one of the things you're talking about is having a 3-year average for the student. Well, we used to do a 5-year average to take out the dips and
Right.
then that was changed in the last set of changes for Triton, because what was happening was parents were reading the state website, which uses a yearly average, a yearly pupil, per pupil expenditure. We were using, Triton was using a 5-year rolling average, so that when people read the state website and then read the Triton website, the numbers didn't match,
Didn't-
and the school system was accused of giving out false information, so that's the reason why it went back, although the rolling average keeps you from having each year to year peaks, but it was a major problem back 4 or 5 years ago when we had this before, so I mean, these are some major problems. We really need some general discussion
Yeah, we need to,
between us and the school committee, and maybe if we could give them
I think we need to have,
a letter to ask them to have someone, whether it's the school committee and or the superintendent or
I think
whatever, come and
the
talk to
sooner
us
the-
and at least let us know what the plan is and what the procedure they're intending to follow to try and implement these changes.
I think maybe have it went on the 13th.
Yeah, whatever, but
I think the sooner the better.
So, Mr. Chairman, you had already previously said you wanted some Raleigh school committee reps to attend an upcoming selectmen's meeting. You weren't specific on that, so would the board then like a letter to go to the chair of the school committee and the
Yes.
superintendent,
And the superintendent.
requesting them to attend an upcoming meeting in, if possible, the January 13th meeting?
I would think the 13th. We have something going on the 6th, don't we?
To,
Kind of busy.
The 6th is going to be very busy, but
Okay.
to discuss what, the plan is for the school committee to review and maybe
Mhm.
implement these, or what their plan is to implement these kind of changes.
I
It
would-
sounds right now, the school committee hasn't had a hearing or any
No.
We may have a
official meetings
problem
on these?
with the January 13th because they are starting their budget hearings at the
Okay, yeah.
Pine Grove and Newbury and Salisbury in the middle school
Mhm.
and in the high school. And I think it starts the week of January 13th, if I remember my dates
Okay.
correctly.
have we had any discussion on their budget at all? Have they put out any information?
I
as to
haven't
what-
seen anything on it.
I mean, we're in the dark here, right? That's critical to us for our budgetary purposes.
Right.
Just sounds like there's a complete
We haven't had a
complete
district
lack of
communication meeting.
communications altogether without
in
your
3
district
months.
meetings. I mean, I think we need to at least have the school committee people, even if the superintendent can't make it,
Yeah.
come in and kind of discuss with us what the process is and why we're not having meetings and communicating budget issues, which are critical to the town budget and to the taxpayers at this point.
You know, how many days are we away from the, a week and a half, and we start the new year?
Mhm.
I mean, we're going right into budget season.
Yeah. And I would suggest maybe we try to get a red line copy of what they're proposing here so that we can compare what's existing and what the proposed change is.
And again, we need them in here on the.
Well, that's assuming that the school committee adopts.
Right.
But we need to also know the process for,
Yeah.
for changing the agreement, which I believe is a little more complicated than just the school committee voting on it.
Oh, it
And-
is.
And to ask the Raleigh representatives to come in on the 13th.
I believe that it was mentioned, again, I don't have it in writing, but I believe it was mentioned that if the school committee approved it, then it would have to be voted at the town meeting, spring meetings at the.
Because the other thing I don't care for, even that district committee meeting, is it saying that the finance committee members should be nominated by the Board of Selectmen. I mean, to me, that should be the finance committees,
Yeah.
who they want to represent them, not who they recommend to us that they
Right.
want. You know what I mean? It should be two.
Yeah, I mean, they don't report to us anyway, do they?
No, and they
No.
should have their own right to appoint whoever they want, regardless of what we think. And it
They
just,
report to the moderator.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it doesn't. I just don't see that struck. I don't know. It was one finance committee member and one selectmen's member from each town, and not get involved in how they get appointed or how the towns determine who that person is.
So can I have a motion to send a letter?
Okay,
I'll
so
give you the motion.
it's to,
Second.
it's the school committee chair and the superintendent, to ask for somebody to attend if possible.
Yeah, to
from-
explain the
You know,
possible
the possible-
changes and the FY15 budget process. And specifically why we're going into the budget season if these people haven't met
Yeah.
for 2 months. I mean, that was how we always, in the past, worked in the budget, was that those.
Anything else to be in that
That's
motion?
that's good.
Okay, with that motion, I have a second. I have a second. That's from Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anything else, Joe? Okay. All right, thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, moving on to announcements. Riley Food Pantry is needed donations. Riley Food Pantry is open Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. And there's some date changes, if I remember correctly. Do you remember, Amy? There was something on the food pantry. There were.
I can look it up if you want to do the other.
Yeah. Okay, and I'll move on. The town has the following vacant seats: Conservation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Associate 2 open seats, 2 fence viewer positions, and wood lumber bark inspector. Again, the battery recycling box is located here in the town hall, and also over in the library. Again, if you have a plastic bag, just fill them up with the used batteries, especially this time of year. I imagine there'll be a lot of batteries used on Christmas Day, and there'll be a lot of throw them into a plastic bag and drop them off here at the town hall, and we can dispose of them for you. And again, that's a great way of being green and not, cluttering up the landfills. So with that, we're just trying to. And Amy has.
It's closed this week.
It's closed this week. Okay.
That's,
The food pantry is
it'll be open
closed this
next week for
And-
normal hours. So they're open on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they're closed this Christmas week.
closed this Christmas week, and
on
they'll
the-
open up
On the
next week.
24th and the 26th, but they'll resume their normal hours as previously stated by you, Mr. Chairman, on Tuesday, December 31st.
Okay.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, they're doing some work over there in
Okay.
at the
I
pantry
think you're
itself.
right.
I think they're
I think you're
painting
correct.
and kind of sprucing the place up a little bit.
Good. With that, I have nothing else. I'm going to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and we will see you back here on the 6th of January. So with that, I have a motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make a motion, we adjourn.
I have a
Second.
motion. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night now. We'll see you on the 6th.